Bitcoin is being actively sold and the stock market has also dropped. The dollar continues to be in demand, and this reminded me of what I often get asked, whether there's a correlation between the dollar, Bitcoin, and the stock market. Well, in my opinion, it's more of a no than a yes. Why? This depends on the current market sentiments. So if we remember when the Federal Reserve raised interest rates, it triggered purchases of the dollar, and against this backdrop, Bitcoin showed a temporary decline. But so to speak, it wasn't a sustainable movement. After the drop, it actually got bought back and returned to its previous levels. Similarly, the dollar and Bitcoin behaved when the Federal Reserve started lowering rates. That is, when the dollar weakened. Similarly, the dollar and Bitcoin behaved when the Federal Reserve started lowering rates. That is, when the dollar weakened, Bitcoin rose, but then it would return actually to where it all started. That is, when the dollar weakened, Bitcoin rose, but then it would return actually to where it all started. So there wasn't a lasting impact. Again, there wasn't. Similarly, the correlation between Bitcoin and the stock markets can exist, meaning they can move in the same direction, more or less. In what cases does this happen? When there's capital looking for something to buy and it flows in, there can be a correlation with the stock markets, meaning they can move in the same direction, more or less. In what cases does this happen when there's capital looking for something to buy? There is still demand for stocks and cryptocurrencies, meaning for anything that can bring some profit to investors, and vice versa. There are some risk-off sentiments and everyone is fleeing in the same dollar, which is one of, so to speak, safe haven assets. They can, like right now, Bitcoin is falling and falling to arrange the stock markets, but it doesn't depend on that at all. The decline more of the stock market is absolutely not dependent on it. The dynamics of Bitcoin, and on the contrary, if there's interest in cryptocurrencies, then the crypto market will be at its peak of glory, as they say. And when investors get rid of shares, they see, for example, the same expected Trump tariffs. The stock market will be falling while crypto will be in demand. Here, I wouldn't trade based on the idea that, for example, if Bitcoin is rising, I buy stocks, or vice versa. No. Just like with the dollar, it might work, but it's going to be a short-term situation, and sooner or later it will lead to losses. It will lead to losses.